Hello, hello.
Hello,
Hello, everyone. Hi, Evan. Lovely to see you. Hi,
good to see you.
Dina. Hi, Mama. Yay. Hi,
Morning,
guys.
afternoon, everybody. Hi,
Good
everybody.
morning, Dina. How are you?
Great.
Fantastic. You're looking lovely. Where am I here? Oh, here we go. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Here, sound check. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's get set up here. Mm, mm, mm. Okay. Give it a minute or two more, see if some more people hop on. If you haven't already, grab a notebook and pen. There will be a little workbook that accompanies this that will come afterwards. But just if there's anything that you want to jot down, anything like that. Hello, Darren.
Hello, how are you?
Look how cozy. You're looking so wintry and cozy.
It's freezing. It's
So
freezing. Hi,
cold,
guys.
eh?
Yeah, very cold. Well, cold
Ah,
for
the
us South Africans. I think,
winter is here.
yeah, I think our international members will laugh if they know what I think is cold.
Yes. True, true, true. Okay, has everyone got their nice warm drink or their cool drink, depending where in the world you are? Dina, you look so nice and cool. We're all like laid up. I've probably got about 3 layers and a blanket around my little legs here. Evan, remind me where you are again?
All right.
In Norway. Oh, yes. Yeah, okay. So Evan knows cold. We don't know cold.
It's clear right now. It's not that cold. It's about 11 degrees.
You're in spring now, right?
Yeah.
Going into summer.
It's not bad.
Awesome. Nice. Well, hi everyone. I'm super excited for today's webinar. And like our webinars, we're going to get, there's quite a lot of cool info that we're going to go through. You will get a little work playbook afterwards as well, so that you can really deepen the experience. But following on from our last webinar, which is all about our state creation, learning to become masterful state shifters, today we're going to go even one step deeper into probably one of the most overlooked components of trading psychology, right? Because essentially what we hear a lot, I've definitely heard, and every webinar or thing that I've listened to that's like, turn off your emotions, you've got to be a stone cold trader. It's completely inaccurate, because at the end of the day, we're human beings, right? Hello, Francisco. Welcome, welcome. And we want to embrace our humanness, and we want to actually use it to our advantage, which is what we're hopefully going to get out of today, is seeing how we can really turn these emotional triggers, something that we normally see as an annoyance, into trading precision. Okay, so following on from last month, we looked at, like I said, how to design states of being. But today we're really focusing on the emotional regulation aspect. So this is about regulating ourselves, resetting ourselves, and realigning ourselves. We're going to go even more deeply. Okay, is everybody with me? We're here. Okay, we're ready for the adventure. Let's dive in. Okay, so a little quick overview of what to expect today. We're going to be oh, there's a little bit of a reverb. Hang on. There we go. Perfect. So we're going to be understanding and reframing our emotions as data points, as little indicators. We're going to be looking at what an emotion actually is, how it functions in the body, and how to move it through the body. We're going to be decoding just over 7 of the core main trading emotions that come up for us, and we're going to be equipping ourselves with some powerful nervous system regulation tools, some somatic tools. And then we're going to be building that inner edge and looking at what it means to have an emotional trading plan, not just an excellent trading plan. Okay, so really starting at the very beginning, let's ground ourselves in a clear definition. I think the idea of emotions in and of itself is quite confusing. We have all of these labels and words that we use for emotions, but really, I love this definition. It's probably one of the clearest. It's going to sound a little complex, but we'll get into it and simplify it. So, an emotion is a biological action potential that arises when there's a disruption in the brain's prediction model. So over the last couple of months, we've been looking at how the brain actually works as this little predictor. And really put in very simple terms is the brain is always trying to predict what's going to happen next. And when something unexpected happens, so a sudden loss, a missing entry, a volatility spike, right, it's going to break that prediction, and the body's going to get flooded with all these little neurochemicals. Really, it's quite a chemical reaction that's happening when we talk about emotions themselves. So seeing it like your system's built-in alert signals, we've got our little alerts on, and this is coming up because something uncertain, unfamiliar, unsafe is coming up in the environment. Even though we've experienced these spikes before, in that moment, remember, the brain doesn't know past or future, it's all just present. So in this moment, it's uncertain, it's unfamiliar, it's unsafe, but then it's going up to the mind. So that's our bodies are being flooded, then going up to the data storage place in the mind that says, oh wait, we felt this last time we lost. And then we're creating a story about it, which we'll get into in like a machine. We can
Looks like we've lost Tristan.
Looks like it.
Hopefully she'll be
Looks
back
like
in a
it.
minute.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we can hang around. She did say she was battling during the week with her signal to a point where I think that's why she said she wants to make it Friday again so she can travel
Yeah.
to a place where she can talk with us without interruption.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi, Tristan. You're back. It's gone.
Hello.
Tristan.
Got kicked out of the meeting.
Oh dear.
So weird. Hang on a second.
You were freezing as well.
Was I?
Yeah.
Sorry about that, guys. Okay, let's just reset. Boom, boom, boom. When in doubt, let's try. Okay, can we see the screen again?
Yes.
Can we see me? Can we hear me?
We can hear you. And we can't see your pic. Oh, there we go. Can see you too.
Okay. Are we back?
Yeah.
That was so weird. It literally said, you have been kicked out of the meeting. I'm hosting the meeting, guys. Can't kick me out. Okay. We good? Give me a little nod. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Where were we? Okay. So let us reset. Where were we? Okay. So emotions are our indicators. They're not little intrusions. That's really what we want to let sink in and land. For many of us, and I want you to think about as we start to talk about this, I know we have touched on it, but we're really bringing this all together and integrating it. When we think about the messages we received about our emotions growing up, either they were too much, they were neglected, they were ignored. There's a whole lot of story that we have around our feeling, right? And for many of us, we might see those emotions as weaknesses, right? But they're not. They're actually this where we find that inner edge. So developing the inner edge means activating our awareness, which we have touched on in previous, the components of awareness, cultivating awareness, reframing, the art of being able to see things from multiple angles. And today we're adding that beautiful missing link, which is the regulation aspect, actually being able to self-regulate, self-soothe in healthy ways so that we can really work with our emotion. So we've looked at that sphere of control, and being right in the center of true control, it actually starts to change texture. It isn't a forceful control. It's really quite a softening into, a surrendering into what I can think, feel, respond to. We've been looking at how to become response able. Okay, so we're not here to try and control our emotions. We're actually here to try and understand them, what the underlying need is, and that is where we then get to be more receptive, not by suppressing them, pushing them away, pretending they don't exist, like we may have been taught to. Okay. So, little recap. In state creation, we spoke about emotions being energy in motion. So, if we think about that definition I spoke about earlier, it is this biochemical cocktail that's happening in the body. There's movement, it's dynamic. And when we're suppressing it, when we're pushing it away, we're stockpiling it, it's creating a stagnation in the body. And we'll look at how that can affect us in different ways, right? So if we're understanding that it's trying to move us into action, energy in motion, moving into action, these actions are pre-programmed for survival. Okay, and we'll explore a little bit more about that in a moment. But they really are kind of hardwired, the default setting, remember, like we've spoken about. So we want to understand, meet ourselves where we're at, and then be able to sort of see these emotions, interpret them in new, different ways so that we can regulate them and work with them, play with them in different ways. Okay. So when we resist something, it's going to persist, it's going to get louder. So if I'm sitting there saying, don't get frustrated, just be patient, just breathe, I'm denying that that's how I feel and I'm pushing it away. And it's more likely to kind of kick in and take over, right? And we want to be able to have the full resource kit. We've been building over the time we've been spending together, we've been building this incredible toolbox. And we want to be able to have access to that toolbox. But we can only do that when we recognize, when we rise to meet ourselves where we are, not where we wish we were, not how we wish we were feeling. It's that pause, feel, and then start to get a little bit more curious. Okay, so let's look at how this comes up in trading. We've signed up for probably one of the most volatile industries. Okay, we know that trading has a built-in uncertainty. It's just part of the game. Okay, so trading is going to trigger all of those little survival buttons that we're working so hard on trying to be patient and focused and all these wonderful things. Trading will trigger them. Okay, we're in a very high stakes environment, right? There is real and perceived financial risk. And remember, money is all about, is so intrinsically woven into our survival. So as soon as there's money on the line, boom, we're in that survival mode's been activated. This is something we have to know going in. So we don't set ourselves up for like, oh, but I've built this amazing toolbox and I can't use it in the moment. No, it's going to be there. Remember, it's all about recovery. It's about being able to go, I'm having this emotion, this biochemical flood in my body. I'm feeling all these things going on. Okay, reset and take action, which we'll get into more in a moment. Okay, so that volatility is there. It's fast moving. Okay, there is a sense of urgency that's activated, doubt, overexcitement, right? Financial freedom. Finally, this is the golden ticket. All of these things are going to be coming up here for you. This is what we've signed up for. Okay, we know that there is no avoiding these emotions. All we're here to do is learn to navigate them a little bit more skillfully, a little bit more compassionately. Okay, so we're dropping this idea that we want to be stoic traders or numb traders or robotic traders, but really being able to become the eye of the hurricane and find that inner edge, meet ourselves where we are. So who can relate to this image? Okay, this is the roller coaster, the real life roller coaster of, and depending on how much we've got on the line, this is going to be even more volatile. So whether we want to admit it or not, we are on this emotional roller coaster ride. Every single time we step in, we've got our strategy, everything is there. Seth's teachings are very clear in our mind. Everything is in and on. Boom, it goes out the window as soon as we hop onto this emotional roller coaster. So we get excited, right? There's that optimism. Yay, things are looking good. Then we start to get into the thrill energy. Ooh, it's very exciting. Maybe we peak at a euphoric, I'm unstoppable, I've got it, I'm amazing. We get into that overconfidence, then the anxiety, then things start to swing differently. Bit of a downturn happens, the anxiety starts to kick in, heart starts to beat. Then we're like, denial. Okay, no, this will turn around. It's okay. Then fear. Okay. Then a little bit of desperation, bit of panic. Then we get into despondency, maybe a little bit of depression. Why do I trade? Why do I bother doing this? Then we go back up again, hope, relief, optimism, and so the roller coaster rides. Okay, so if we know that this is little, like we've looked at the hero's journey, these are little ebbs and flows on the experience, right? And instead of having shame about it or feeling bad about it, beating ourselves up about it, we're wanting to just really recognize the energy, the emotion of these different states. We're going to explore some of them today, but I want you to look at which ones you have a tendency to get caught up in. Maybe you're like me, I'm an eternal optimist, so euphoric state or hype. I can easily get swept away in the hype energy, and I need a lot more grounding there so that euphoria doesn't drop into disappointment. So as we go through this, I want you to just see what are some of the main areas that you get swept up. Maybe you're not on the roller coaster for all of these. Maybe some are easier to navigate. That's okay. But just recognizing as we move through today. Okay, so let's look at the emotional sequence. We've got an arousal. That arousal is coming from the biochemicals flooding our body, right? So heat, activated nervous system is being activated, muscles are tensing, our breath is shortening. There's all of those things at state. The default state is being activated. That leads us to a sensory experience because we are human beings. We are feeling-based beings. So we have this flood of chemicals that's going to create different sensations in all of us, depending on our experiences. So that might be the tightening of the tummy, the beating of the heart, right? Having this very visceral experience. Then goes up to the mind and we start sticking labels. We love to have our sticky notes, stick some labels on it. This is where the mind actually gives the emotion the name. It names the emotion. And this is both a blessing and a curse, because it's good to know what fear feels like. We want to know what fear feels like in our own bodies. The trouble with that is as soon as it labels it, because our brain has this amazing archive, it then starts to go, oh my gosh, these are all the other times I felt afraid. And it starts to pull from the archive. And now instead of just having a freaking experience for what it is in this moment, we are now being swayed and impacted by our past experiences. This then motivates a behavior, a reaction, or a response. And as we are learning to be responsible traders, we want to, as that shift happens, we want to know, okay, default reaction, boom, I have another option. And then we're the meaning makers. So what belief are we then adding to that? What other meaning are we adding to this? So if I'm making the same mistake, am I adding that old inner critic meaning of, oh, you see, you always do this, you're such a loser? Or am I starting to go, okay, this is information that's arising? We're just getting better at that. Like I said, it doesn't disappear. This process is part of the human experience. We're going to rise and fall. These things are going to happen. All we're doing is we are shortening the refractory period that we get stuck in certain emotions and being able to regulate ourselves. We're going to get dysregulated. We want to learn to regulate. Yeah? Everyone with me? Yes, yes, yes. Fantastic. Okay. So let's look at that just a little bit more structure for the brain. So for those of you that studied philosophy, right, we've maybe heard the quote, I think, therefore I am. Yeah, Desicrees, right? We've heard it. And actually it kind of messes with the true nature of what it means to be a human being. So we think that because I'm having this thought, because I'm having this feeling, we create that identity concept that we've spoken so much about. But really, from a modern neuroscience perspective, we're actually seeing that that's not 100% true. Actually, the arousal, the emotion in the body is happening first, not the thought. The thought is a byproduct of the feeling that's going on, which is kind of cool because then we actually have a lot more freedom. We have a lot more ability to state shift in between stimulus and response. Okay. So before you think your body is reacting, that heart rate is changing, our muscles are tensing, our hormones are shifting, there's all these little micro things that are happening. Okay. And when we recognize, so here's the situation, trigger, it's going to trigger that biochemical reaction, thought, sensation, and these two can sometimes be flipped. So maybe we interpret the feeling with thought, or we have a thought and then that creates or amplifies the feeling, which then leads to a behavior. Okay. So thinking about how this comes up for you in trading, right? We're going to have the same stories that are reiterated again and again and again. Maybe it's that we don't get in because we're just hesitating. We feel that cautionary sense, the caution is flooding the body, the freeze response is kicking in. We don't get in, or we stay in our comfort zone and we don't really expand. Okay, so we're just wanting to give ourselves more range. We're wanting to be able to see it and have a plan before we're actually in the live emotion. Okay. So this is kind of a cool wheel. There'll be an emotion wheel in your little playbooks as well, because I want you to be able to expand your emotional literacy. For many of us, we get stuck on, I feel anxious, overwhelmed, afraid, angry. And we kind of get really stuck on these gross emotions, these, big umbrella emotions. But there's a lot more nuance to that. We're a lot more nuanced than that. And without getting too stuck on labels, what I do want you guys to think about as you explore is when I have a certain emotion, certain sensation, what is the behavior that it's driving me to? So some of the examples here, maybe we get anger. So anger would be the umbrella emotion. In that anger, there's hateful, there's mad, there's aggressive, there's irritated, there's distant. There's so many different ways to be angry, and it's going to show up in our behavior. Maybe somebody yells and stomps off or pushes their chair away angrily and storms out the room. Maybe somebody zones out, right? There's all these different ways that we are reacting unconsciously to certain emotions. And through our development, we're wanting to look at when we feel something, what behavior does that lead us to, right? Because if it's just automated, we're going to keep having the same results, which we're not wanting. So just to touch back a little bit of our prehistory, I think it was one of our first workshops together in adaptability. We looked at our trauma response, our nervous system. And remember, we're speaking very biologically. This is not even just the mental game. This is what's happening really on a very visceral nervous system response. So all of these things will come from our childhood. We're here to learn to respond differently to them. So when we think about when we place a trade, right, before we've even touched the chart, our nervous system has already responded or reacted. There's already something at play here, okay? And these reactions will tend to lead us to the same results again and again. So recognizing that maybe if we are in our fight, flight, our fight mode, we might try and over control what we can't control, controlling the market, those types of things. Flight, we're going to be impulsively exit. Freeze, we're going to get analysis paralysis. We're going to stay on the outskirts. Flop, maybe we get a headache and we're like, oh, I can't, I'm too tired to trade today. And we're going to find some excuse as to a way to sort of cop out. Okay. And this really leads to our brains being literally emotionally hijacked like a toddler. We really are just giant 8-year-olds walking around pretending we're adults a lot of the time. So this emotional hijacking happens when that trigger hits. So maybe it's a sudden loss, or we were feeling that euphoria and then things swung completely not in our favor. The body got completely overwhelmed with either cortisol, adrenaline, and then we just got stuck in one of these fight, flight, freeze responses. Okay, that's going to happen. But we want to be able to have an exit strategy. The same way you're able to exit your trade, we want to be able to exit our default reactions. So when we find ourselves there, so just a quick refresher for your brains, we've actually added one here, one I discovered quite recently, the flop. Which is quite funny. So a lot of us get physical sensations like a headache where we literally can't look at the screen anymore. We get sick, we burn out, and this is kind of that flop, like, oh, I'm fainting, I can't, I'm out. Possum energy. So it's even more intense than the freeze response. Okay, so just refreshing your brain here, looking at that fight might be a revenge trade. I'm trying to win it all back. Right? And we are wanting to be able to develop the exit strategy to move into our responsibility so that we have more choices. Okay, so what is emotional dysregulation? I'm sure for many of you, and maybe just jot down as we look at this, what are some of the things that you are predispositioned to when it comes to emotional dysregulation, past, present, or future? Okay, some of the things that we would notice. So some of the main ones is impulsive behavior. Okay, so not really thinking before we do something, getting impatient and then reacting, getting overwhelmed by our emotions. This could show up in our relationship issues, trust issues, in severe cases, substance abuse, right? Wanting to numb ourselves. Remember, all of these things, we're trying to learn to self-soothe. We're trying to find a sense of comfort. But if we haven't learned how to emotionally regulate, which unfortunately most of us haven't, we should get taught this stuff in kindergarten, I believe. Most of us grew up with dysregulated parents. And then we're just using coping strategies that have worked for us in the past, which might not work for us now, especially in trading. And this is something I want you guys to understand is what worked in your previous industry. So I know we've got some, construction, we've got healthcare, we've got restaurant business, we've got all these other industries. what used to work, the grit, determination, I will persevere, does not work so well in trading, because that push, that I will just stay and do it no matter what, doesn't necessarily make you look and revisit your trading plan or your trading strategy. It actually does the opposite. It makes you push past when you actually should pause. So we kind of need to really rework our strategy. What worked for us in the past in terms of regulation does not necessarily work for us right now. And so, what are some of the things that you notice? And you can pop it in the chat or just mark it down for yourselves. So, maybe it's a sense of I completely ignore my stop loss or my rules at certain times, right? Or I flip flop between trading strategies. I doubt myself. I second guess myself. I have this urgency to act even before I have clarity, right? Maybe I get that anxiety and then I'm moving from anxiety. How can you start to recognize when you're number one, dysregulated? What are the things that we do when we're dysregulated? And it's quite interesting when we look at it from, we've looked a little bit at body language and posture and how the body actually is so much of our communication. We might start to fidget. We might bite our nails. We might play with our hair. We might crack our knuckles. These are little signs that we're trying to self-soothe. And that is an indication, that's an indicator that there is a dysregulation that's occurring. The nervous system in that moment is dysregulated. Before we move forward, we want to establish some form of regulation. We want to have a healthy, soothing mechanism that comes in. So, number one, what are those responses or reactions when we're in a trauma response, right? When we're in a dysregulated state. And then as we're building our plan today and moving forward, what are some of the things that we can do? So we're looking at what our unhealthy coping strategies are. And let's be honest, we spoke about accountability, right? Being able to really own our shit and be like, okay, this is what I do. Okay, that's okay. Now, what can I do better? Because again, understanding working with our emotions goes even beyond just our trading. As we've spoken about before, this applies to so much more. And I could do a whole webinar just on this one concept, but I thought I'd just throw it in here a little bit. And when we are not working with our emotions, that energy in motion can actually show up as physical symptoms in the body. So Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic systems actually look at this and have 5,000 years worth of data backing this up, is that when we are ignoring, for some of us, we might feel more comfortable with certain emotions and then we reject other emotions. Maybe we don't like to be an angry person, so we don't want to have that anger. But that anger helps us to have clear boundaries, right? And to be able to assert those boundaries. And those boundaries essentially are the structure, the system. So if we're throwing out the anger and not ignoring it, we might be throwing out our trading plan without even knowing it. Okay, it's like throwing the baby out with bathwater. So looking at, even just for your own sake, that emotional dysregulation, how does it manifest physically for you? Do we get chronic symptoms that keep reoccurring, or pains in the body, or certain weaknesses, right? And it's quite fascinating when we look at, so for example, anger leads most people that are very angry or bitter turn to alcohol as a way to numb. Then we see that manifest as all kinds of liver issues, right? So we can look at it on a biological level, but also on an emotional level. So just exploring, just to take it one step deeper, where are those little weak spaces in the body? Like when we do get sick, so I know for me, it's very much lung stuff, processing grief and sadness, because I like to be optimistic and bubbly. And so my little body indicator will be like, hey, we have stockpiled some emotion by getting some chest infections, bronchitis, things like that. That's my indicator that I know, okay, something's going on here. We got to pause. We got to assess what's going on here. Okay, so just another fun way to take it one step deeper. Okay, everyone with me so far? I know it's a lot of info. You'll have the slide deck to go back to. Okay, so with that in mind, we've looked at the dysregulation, we've looked at what emotions are. I want us to now introduce this idea is from a philosophical point of view, if we think, therefore we are, in a materialist world, we very much put more emphasis on being rational, logical, strategic minded people, especially in trading, right? We tend to maybe look up to people that are able to be, seem to be very, very strategic with no emotion. And recognizing that, like I said, we are by nature, yes, we have rational minds, we can think, we can analyze, that's fantastic, but it is only one part of us. And if we are preferencing that part and ignoring the emotional part, it will wreak havoc and it will hijack us. If we are prizing and just being overly emotional, we won't have access to the rational mind. And so this is really what I'm wanting to introduce to you. The inner edge is the wise mind. It is the ability to take data from the body, feedback from the body, as well as your amazing strategy, indicator, everything you've learned, and be able to kind of combine the two, where we're being able to stay in the center with it. Okay, so think about it for a moment. The rational mind is the analyzer of charts. It is the builds the trade plans. It understands the risk and the reward. It follows the rules on paper, right? It's logic. It's statistics. It's decision. It's fantastic. We love it, but it's not all that we are. Okay, the emotional mind is the part that will panic during a a drawdown, right? When things are going not in our favor. It's the part that might get a little greedy, right? It's the part that will hesitate and sit on the sidelines. It's the part that's going to react from past experiences. Oh, we lost again. Oh, here we go again. So the wise mind is the part that's able to feel the data coming from the emotion, how that shows up physically in the body. It's able to pause before responding. And it's then being able to access the logic mind aspect that we need to be able to implement strategy. Okay, so this is what we are creating by creating the inner edge, the wise you that's able to contain both, to hold both, to be that human being that we are. Okay, so EQ, we did go into quite a lot of detail in the previous webinar. So I'm just going to touch base again here, especially if it's the first time you're on this call. Emotional intelligence, we know intelligence. Okay, fantastic. Our IQ, but we also have EQ, and this is the ability to recognize sensation and feeling in the body, to have an awareness of what's going on inside, to be able to regulate ourselves, to navigate through our emotions as well as other people's emotions as well, to be response able to other people instead of feeling like we need to stop or take on board what they're feeling. And EQ truly matters in trading because, like I said, we're dealing with uncertainty, risk, volatility, performance pressure, right? All of these things are going to come in. EQ allows us to actually stay calm, to navigate, to move between, to be the eye of the hurricane. Okay, so it is vital. It is not a soft skill like I've heard a lot of people in the industry talk about. Oh, and that, to be honest, I think is why so many, or there's such a few, small percentage of you guys that show up for the mindset stuff, because people love a quick fix. People love just a strategy, and they're not really willing to face the harsh reality that it's here and you are inescapable. This shit's going to follow you around. So rather face it with the tools and the skills, then say, okay, I'm going to get another strategy. I'm going to do another course. I'm going to do another thing. And, maybe I'll find that, or maybe I'll be successful in that. No, we become successful by facing the hardest parts of ourselves and integrating them and bringing them into wholeness. That's what you guys are showing up here to do. And I'm so proud of you for doing that, because it's really not easy at the end of the day. Okay, so with that in mind, EQ right? Understanding that what an emotion is, this was revolutionary for me, right? So I'm obsessed with neuroscience, and when I came across the work of Jill Taylor, right? She's a neuroscientist, phenomenal research into emotional regulation. What she found through so much data was that it actually only takes 90 seconds for an emotion, by the definition I gave earlier, all those neuropeptides that are flooding through the body, 90 seconds to move through the body. Okay, let that sink in for a second. 90 seconds. If you can pause for 90 seconds and allow that energy to be in motion instead of reacting, which is what we do because it happens so fast, right? It's, oh my gosh, I'm feeling this way, move into action. Even before, and then we're not in our rational mind. We're in the emotional mind. We're not being able to access wise mind. So when we recognize that it only takes 90 seconds, all we really actually have to do is be able to pattern interrupt for those 90 seconds, see what's going on. If it lasts longer than those 90 seconds, we know that we're stuck in story. We know that there's a story at play. And again, that's more data for us. How interesting, how curious. We can get kind of excited about that. So what she found in her research is that most emotions, except for grief and anger, because there's so with anger, the cortisol spike lasts a bit longer in the body. So we want to do a little bit more dynamic regulation, which we'll look at in a moment. For emotion like anger, can take up to 10 minutes to move that cortisol through the body. But if we're still anxious, if we're still feeling angry, 2-3 hours afterwards, that's all story. Those neuropeptides, we're actually just reactivating. It's like we're literally just sitting there pressing the button again and again and again, as opposed to going, okay, oh, button was pressed. What can I do with that now? Okay. So we're going to look at just 3 little tools, essentially, with that in mind, with the 90 seconds idea in mind. And then we're going to actually go into some of the main emotions and look at some strategies there. Everyone still with me? I have a little sip of my tea. Cheers, everyone. Cheers. Okay. Okay, so what we want to do, I introduced the concept, if you weren't on the previous webinar with state creation, I introduced the state of equanimity. So what equanimity, just to remind you again, is recognizing that everything, the only constant is change. Everything rises and passes away. Your heartbeat, right? It's an ebb and a flow. It's an up and a down. And instead of seeing it as this huge spike like a roller coaster, all we're doing is we're wanting to be able to ride the wave. This too shall pass. I know it is a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. If we can understand that, okay, we're in a trade, this is maybe not going in our favor. Before I try and exit, try and do something else, I first want to get regulated. And it's only going to take me a couple of seconds, right? It's a practice. But before I do anything, I want to recognize that I'm either going to win or lose. There's 2 ways. I'm going to win or lose. Okay, can I accept that fact? It is what it is. Of course, there is a thrill in the win. And of course, there is a sting in the loss. That's okay, right? There's going to be fear in the uncertainty. There's frustration when it isn't going our way. These things are there, and equanimity isn't about pretending the feeling doesn't exist. We're not here to be toxically positive, which we'll look at in a moment. It's about staying with the sensation as it moves and passes through the body. So how do we do this? Okay, we looked at this a little bit in state creation, but I'm going to give it to you again because we can't hear this enough times. When we feel the activation, the arousal happening in the body, going into the body, giving it shape, size, temperature, location, where is it in my body? What that does is it literally brings us into the present moment. It brings us into the body, out of the story. When we're following the movement of that current, because again, this is biology, it's chemistry, right? If we're sitting with the sensation, we're like, oh my gosh, it is ginormous and it's red and it's hot. And I just sit with that feeling for a few minutes. I guarantee you that it will drop in temperature. It will drop in size. The color will change. The intensity will shift just by staying with the sensation itself. Why? Because that biochemistry is dissolving and dissipating in our bloodstream as we bring our attention there. Just for 90 seconds. 90 seconds, that's nothing. Okay? So in practice, I'm wanting to bring that awareness to notice when I'm activated. And this is, I think, where the harder part of this kind of work is really cultivating that awareness, being compassionate with ourselves when there's a trigger instead of judgmental, being able to come into it, observe it, stay with it, and ride it until it shifts. Then, once it's moved slightly, or even just the temperature, the intensity shifted even just a little bit, we're more likely to be able to move from that wise mind space than before. Okay. So we've all, when the expression, I got to really come to my senses. Okay. I want you to take that literally, guys. I want you to come to your senses. What does that mean? Literally, come into the experience of the present moment. We only experience the present moment through our senses. What we can feel, what we can hear, what we can see, what we can taste, what we can touch. If we can bring ourselves, even just for those 90 seconds, into our senses, we have literally come back to our senses. Our critical faculty can come back online because now we are present. We're in that inner edge, we're in that center. So a lovely tool that I love to use is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding method. So this is 5 things. So I'm sitting there, I'm being, I can feel the arousal, I'm being activated in my body. Name 5 things I can see, 4 things that I can feel, 3 things that I can hear, the humming of my computer, the birds outside, 2 things I can smell, maybe my tea, the freshness of the air, the crispness of the air, things I can taste. Boom. You are now in this present moment. Okay, we've come back to our senses. And then we can start to get curious. If that emotion lingers longer, there's a story here, right? And just the same way we're exploring our metaphors and our stories, this is data. This is going to reveal to us our limiting beliefs, some of those old self-concepts that are boring, that we're super bored of, that we want to shift. So if that is lingering and I'm struggling to snap out of the state, I want to be able to see what else is going on there for me. What other information, what else can I notice here? And actually start to get a little bit curious, right? And then we can reframe and move into regulation, okay? So let us get into some of the main emotions that we experience, especially in trading, but also in life. Okay, so just noticing as you look at them, I want you to see which ones really stand out for you. Okay, I've said emotions plus states because now we understand that a state is more complex than just the biochemical reaction. The state has the story narrative to it. It has the posture, it has the breathing, it's got all these other little components to it. So we also want to start to differentiate what's a core raw emotion that's coming up and what's a state of being. Okay, so fear is a core emotion, right? Impatience is a state of being. Okay, and so just so that you can kind of see how these things all fit together and what some of the things are that they might lead to. Remember, we were looking at some of the behaviors. I want you to note, what are some of these things for you? What plays out for you specifically? Because it's going to be different for all of us. Okay, so like I was saying earlier, we're not interested in toxic positivity. Oopsie. We are wanting to activate true validation. So when there's been an activation that's happening, I want you to notice for many of us, we think we process our emotions, and this is where some accountability comes in, but we actually intellectualize the emotion. Okay? That is it's fine, it'll be okay. No, I'm freaking feeling aroused and activated right now. It's not going to be okay. I first have to identify the need behind that before I just push past it. Only positive vibes here. No, I'm here. Pain and pleasure, part of the game. Winning and losing, part of the game. Okay? If I'm trying to push away from negative thoughts and I'm preferencing positive thoughts, what's going to persist are those negative thoughts. So it's both. Can I have compassion with where I truly am right now? And for you to really recognize that difference between when I'm being toxically positive and I'm just trying to intellectualize how I'm feeling versus the little bit harder option, which is really sitting in and without getting lost in the story around it, really validating. I freaking lost $200. That freaking sucks. I'm not going to candy coat that. That sucks. Okay. And then, right? Versus it's okay, more things will come, because then we're actually just perpetuating this story, and we're bypassing the essential needs that are sitting behind the emotion. So just very quickly, I want to introduce, I'm sure many of you have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If not, it's very fascinating. I agree with some of the stuff, don't agree with others. I think we've got this very mechanistic idea of looking at life, especially from a masculine lens. We like to structure and box and label things, but actually everything exists here and now. So his idea was placing these things, we can't have this before this, but all of these things can come up simultaneously. And when you understand and get in touch with the emotion that's coming up for you, there really is a need behind it. And if we are jumping to action without understanding that need, we're more likely to get into unhealthy self-soothing mechanisms, escapism, all of those types of things. So from his idea is it's our psychological needs, right? Really fundamental. Then it is the safety, emotional, more of the emotional needs, like real safety, personal security, resources, things like that. Then it's a sense of love and belonging. Then a sense of respect, self-esteem. And only then can we reach self-actualization, a desire to become all that we can be, which is what we're all doing here, essentially. But like I said, I don't want us to see it in this rigid way. I want us to see it more as this dynamic thing. So when an emotion is coming up, I know this is going to sound ridiculous, but so overlooked, go back to basics. Do you need a freaking nap? Are you actually too tired to be in this trade right now? Are you hungry? Are you hangry? Okay. So we want to check what is the really primal base level psychological need that might be coming up there for you. And then understanding our 4 core emotional needs. And I would say that from a mental health perspective, these needs are even we can go with days and stuff without food and water. But when we go without these things for a long time, we really deprive the emotional body. And then we try to become more robotic. We really disconnect from our core emotions. And these are to be seen, to be heard, to be loved, and to be accepted. We all have them. They are not soft needs. You are not weak because you need them. Okay? We need them. I want us to apply these needs to the way that we're going to be looking at dealing with our emotions. Okay? If you can see the emotion and you can just listen to it for a moment, what is it bringing your attention to? And you can accept it for what it is right here, right now, the data, the indicator, what it's bringing up for you, and love it, right? That is actually what brings it into integration. We can only accept something and love it into integration. I can really bring it in. I can make it part of me when I can see it as a useful thing, see it as something that's benefiting me. Yeah, everyone with me? So I want you, as we go through these emotions now, I want you to have the need in mind. And this is going to take some self-investigation. This is going to require you to do a little bit more of the inner work and not just stay on the surface with certain things as well. When I get angry, what is actually sitting there behind that for me? Okay, so we're going to go into, I'm going to skim through them. What I've done, the way that I've structured it here for you is really just so that you can kind of, when we create your personal emotional strategy, you can use a similar framework. Okay, so I'm going to go through some of the core ones. We're going to look, some of them have some some of them have some tools for us to look at and to integrate. So what I'm wanting you to think about is we all have these preconceived ideas and stories about certain emotions, being good or bad. Okay. I've tried to bring a little bit of a character, and you can please feel free to personalize this. I'm just giving you a framework. Please get creative. Please play with this. I want us to have a different way of looking at this emotion, because when we can see it differently, we can bring it in and we can work with it in a different way. Okay, so let's take fear. Think about fear as being maybe an overprotective helicopter parent. Be careful, be careful, be careful. Cuidado, right? It's this overly, I'm trying to keep you safe. I want to wrap you in a little bubble and I don't want you to get hurt. I don't want anything to happen to you. The primary need behind the emotion of fear is safety and reassurance. Okay, that's a good thing to know when I feel afraid. The protective function is, so obviously we're applying this specifically to trading, but look at this in all aspects of your life. It's to prevent loss, right? Because remember, loss, financial loss, is messing with your security, is messing with your survival, and it maintains that caution. But when it's mismanaged, when this fear is mismanaged, it's going to come up as hesitation, missed trades, premature exits. Okay, it's going to come up in all these ways. And when we think about fear as a little wise reframe from the wise mind, fear is alerting me and I can listen without having to obey it. I can listen to it and I can be like, okay, but I can have courage and I can have access to these other things. I can access my tools. Thank you. And, okay. So one of the most amazing tools for this and totally underrated is actually grabbing, try it with me here for a moment. So you're just giving yourself a self squeeze. So we are primed as we touch our arms, whether we were comforted or nurtured as a child, we literally have specialized nerve endings in the parts of the body. We are, folded up when we're in the womb. We're in this space, this kind of squeezed space. If we were rocked and cradled by our mothers, I know many of us weren't in the way that we would have liked to be. Essentially, what this does is it's sending a signal to the body that I'm okay, that I'm safe. It's producing oxytocin, which is our bonding hormone, which dramatically reduces our cortisol and adrenaline super quickly. Like I said, when there's a cortisol spike, so fear and anger spike cortisol. So we're going to require a little bit more regulation, a little bit more soothing for those emotions, right? So just spending those 90 seconds, taking a few deep breaths, squeezing ourselves here, maybe a little rock, a little pat. I was patted as a child, so I find patting very soothing. Just find whatever works for you. When you feel the feeling of fear coming up, as quickly as we can, we're coming into regulation. I feel dysregulated. Okay, what can I do to regulate? So there's a few different tools here, but this really is such a powerful, quick way to do that. Another one is the butterfly hug that we've learned before. So we tap on our chest and we regulate our heartbeat. This is also, we're primed in the womb to hear our mother's heartbeat. And so when we can actually find that rhythm, we're like literally retuning ourselves, which is quite nice. Okay, so our next little emotion that we're going to be exploring here is euphoria, right? This is dopamine flooding our bodies. We're swimming in hopefulness, okay? So the primary need of this is validation, hope, and ironically control, right? Because there's uncertainty, if I can be extremely hopeful about it, super dreamy. It's a way of trying to control the situation because I'm putting a positive spin on it. I'm forcing it to have a positive outcome, right? The protective needs behind this is to escape the discomfort of reality. That's why we have a lot of escapist behaviors. We want to watch movies, we want to doom scroll. It gives us that artificial sense of escapism, right? Or drugs in extreme cases, alcohol, things that give us a state of euphoria, right? Euphoria feels good, okay, but it's not always true. And we want to be able to stay in the wise mind. So if I'm being overly confident and I'm saying, oh, if I keep going with this trade, it's going to keep going up. I just know it is. And I'm not, and I'm ignoring actually my indicator and what's the signals that are on my screen, that euphoria is no longer beneficial for me. Okay. So we want to be able to come in. Some tools here is our pre-trade checklist, actually knowing what to do and coming back to a sense of baseline. So this is not realism because anything's possible. So we do want to have that sense of hope and hopefulness, but we don't want to get lost in the illusion. We want to be able to stay grounded. Okay, so a great little tool here is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method that we spoke about earlier. Physically taking yourself outside when you feel that amazing hype mode, go and ground yourself, take your feet, bare feet on the ground, just come back to basics, right? Really just feel it, land it, be in the present moment. Okay, so just some ways of dealing with that. And again, these are just suggestions. As we look at our toolbox, I want you to start to say, okay, this tool works for this emotion for me. So this is going to be customized, okay? So our wonderful anger is our bodyguard emotion. It's there to really keep our boundaries safe. It comes up when we feel powerless. It's there to help us feel a sense of power again. The primary needs behind it is boundaries, a feeling of respect, a feeling of power or powerless. When we feel powerlessness, we want to reactivate or reassert power. And it's signaling there's a violation that's happened. The market, this is unfair. No, how dare they just take my money? That's not okay. Or I feel suppressed. I feel like I don't have any power. I have no resources. So this is going to look like things like revenge trading, impulsive exit, blaming the manipulators, blaming the market, going into that good old victim state that we've spoken about before. Anger is showing me where I need to act, not where I need to react. Okay, so what is your wise reframe here? And then some tools that we can implement. There is going to be a boundary exercise. So really getting clear on what your boundaries are on a very practical sense. What is your stop loss? What do you feel comfortable with? And then shaking, which is a huge one, which we'll look at here. So like I said earlier, cortisol takes a little bit more to get out of the body. If you look at any animal in nature, when they've been fighting, they will shake it off. So there's a powerful modality called TRE, tremor release therapy, that actually helps to release all the anger that we've just been suppressing and putting in to put on a brave face and mounting all this armor. We've got all these defense mechanisms. Learning to shake it off, so literally just shaking the hands, shaking the body, getting a little wild. If you feel triggered, if you feel freaking pissed off, you've just lost, shake it off, literally. Good old Taylor Swift told us, right? Shake it off. Get into the habit of being able to move that cortisol through the body. Cortisol is highly corrosive to your organs. If we're sitting still in a high cortisol speak, you're literally pickling your liver. Think about it like that for a moment. You're sitting there stewing in your anger, you're not moving it out through the body. Okay, so shaking it, moving it through the body. Wonderful way to process it. Okay, we've looked at previously, we did a whole module on guilt because it's such a huge one. It really taps into our self-worth, our self-esteem, which ties into our confidence, our motivation to kind of carry on. Okay. So I know we're on 4 o'clock. We're going to 4:30. I've got, if anybody needs to hop off right now, you're welcome. There's a couple more slides and then we'll open for Q&A. Yeah, everyone with me? Good, good, good. Perfect. So our guilt is that judge. It helps us to realign with our values, what's important to us, and our why. right? Remembering why you're trading, guys. Why are you here? What is the purpose of it? I'm here because this is my permission slip for financial freedom. So I don't need to feel guilty, but I do need to reorientate and learn from some of those mistakes. Okay. So it's there, it's reminding me what I stand for, it's helping me do better. It's helping me. I'm not trying to be perfect here, I'm trying to learn from my mistakes. Okay. And there are some nice tools if you go back in the mindset library for that. Another huge one that comes in is a sense of desperation, right? This is when we're literally just watching it plummet and we're holding. We need it to work, okay? This is a state, not an emotion. It's comprised of fear, depletion, and a sense of urgency. And when we feel that desperate energy, this is your call to slam on the brakes. Stop what you're doing. Pause. Stop. Do not do anything from a desperate energy. It will result in it going horribly, horribly wrong because that is pure animal survival mode. There is no rational brain happening when we're in desperation. Okay. So, time out, body check in, right? Using one of our nervous system regulation tools. Okay, really just taking a moment to stop, to reset there. Okay, so this is okay. I've had enough. I'm either tired. I need a break. I need a pause. Whatever. Come back to basics. Are you hungry? Are you tired? Are you thirsty? Okay, really. When we feel desperate energy, stop what you're doing. Come back to basics. Okay. Another one that comes up for us is shame. We've also done a whole workshop on that, so definitely go back and revisit it. Shame is showing us where the shadow aspects are, and it's asking for belonging and acceptance. These are, when we feel shame, it's asking for integration. This is really showing us where parts of us are maybe fragmented or where we're self rejecting, we're self harming in some ways. And it's really trying to bring us back to wholeness. And it does that really well when we work with shame in a conscious way. Inner child works, really powerful way for that. Co-regulation, either just with yourself or with a partner if you can, asking for a hug, things like that, really wonderful way. Like, maybe walking out, oh, I've just lost, I feel so ashamed. Going to ask your partner for a hug, wonderful way to reset, recalibrate the body. Okay, just a few more here, and you can go back in your own time. I'm just going to zoom through them. Regret, huge one. Regret. Why did I do that? Oh, I'm such an idiot. Can't believe I made the same mistake again. This is your compost, ladies and gentlemen. This is the fertilizer that we grow from. We cannot go back in time. We don't have a time machine, but we absolutely can learn from our mistakes. So this primary need is reflection and integration. We want to be able to, this is our calling us back to journaling. We remember that beautiful mindset journal that's sitting there. Go and journal when you feel regret. Journal, look at it, reflect, integrate, learn from our mistakes. If you're not doing that, we're not going to be moving forward because we're going to just keep cycling in the feeling of regret, and it's then like treading water instead of going like, oh yeah, that was a bit stupid. Okay, what can I do about it? And moving forward. Okay, doubt, guys. We all feel it. This next workshop on Friday, we're looking at intuition and trust, and doubt will be there. It's part of human nature. We're gonna second guess. How can we learn to work with our doubt instead of letting it work against us or sabotage? It's there to reconnect with that self-trust, with the gut, right, with our decision making. It's there to help slow things down, right? Instead of us being impulsive when we doubt, it's asking for you to pause, recheck, and then move. And we can do that quite seamlessly. It doesn't have to be such a drama. We don't have to get ourselves in such a spin. Okay, last one, which again, some of us tend to more than others. I want you to think of greed as your survivalist. It's there because it's in scarcity mindset. Remember when we did the money mindset webinar? It is all about scarcity, right? It's about survival. I need more, more, more. There's not enough. It needs enoughness. It needs a sense of a little bit more of that abundance mindset needs to be activated here. Okay, so a great thing when we're getting into that revenge energy, the greed, maybe it's sort of an overconfidence. Powerful ways, actually taking an ice block and pulling it at the back of your neck, resetting, very quick way to come back, splash your face, cool off, cool the freak off, just stop, land, also coming back to basics. Okay, so those are some of the emotions. If there are emotions that I didn't mention here, then go use the same strategy for those emotions. Really get your plan. What are you going to do when you feel those emotions? So in your work booklet, you'll have this tool, the truth tool, just a fun way to kind of break it down and work with things as they come up. And for those of you that are my perfectionists, my pushers, my must do this well and 100%, okay, trying harder isn't going to actually get you. Think about the energy of trying. It's tense, it's tight, we're gritting our teeth, we're pushing, we're tightening. I want you guys to loosen up, soften, okay? This is about emotional regulation, self-soothing. We are not going to use force and willpower to move through emotion. That's not going to happen, okay? We're going to use emotional intelligence to move with that emotion, to move through it. Willpower, we can sustain for short term, then it's going to burn us out. Emotional intelligence is something that's always growing, always expanding, always getting better and better. It's a skill, right? And every time we activate our EQ, our self compassion, we're building trust with ourselves, we stop abandoning ourselves. Guys, we didn't have these needs met as a child. We weren't allowed to feel our feelings as children. Stop. We're learning to do it right now as adults. Okay, just because we didn't do it then, we're doing it now. And this truly is that inner edge. Okay, and then just quick little recap here. So it's not about perfection, it is about being able to recover. So I've been dysregulated. Okay, which emotions coming up here for me? What sensations? Sitting with those 90 seconds, using my tool, using my strategy, the same way you would for your trade. We're doing the same for our emotions. Then we can reflect so that we're not repeating the same mistakes, but we're looking at, we know what's going to happen. There's going to be a loss. You will lose. Sorry to tell you, you're going to lose trades. If we have that loss, get into a heightened emotion, discombobulated, and then we come back to try and trade, our brain is remembering that past time. And it's already affecting us before we've gotten into the trade. We need to learn to recover, reset, so that we can step back and repeat, rinse and repeat. That's trading. We're going to get in, win, lose, maybe 10, 15 times a day we're scalping, okay? So we need to become comfortable with the fact that we're going to win, we're going to lose, we're learning to recover better, and then it's rinse and repeat. And all we're doing is we're just getting better at that process. One little tool I wanted to share with you, because I think it's, again, so misunderstood or just not known. You guys spend so much time on your screens, okay? Blue light from your screens, from your devices, dysregulates your nervous system. Okay, this is fact, this is science. Okay, I'm not making this up. So it is going to arouse, it's going to be harder to catch those emotional states when things are working against us. Okay, our sleep, our melatonin, how we wake up in the morning, the state that we wake up in the morning, all of these things are going to come into play. So you're going to have the tools. If things are still not working, then we want to address some of the other things. Maybe there's maybe there's a hormonal imbalance, maybe there's something else going on. Then get curious about that. Okay, so these tools will work for you. If they're not, then we want to see, okay, maybe I'm dysregulating, I'm not getting enough sleep, I'm trading late at night, staring at blue light, and then wondering why I'm grumpy, angry, and getting easily frustrated. Okay, so if you haven't already, I do highly recommend, especially if you're working a lot on screens, blue light blockers, yeah, highly, highly, highly recommend. Then just a quick little reset. So breathing tools and techniques. This next month is all about building and pulling together our toolbox, but just a little reset there for you. So cold water splashes, grounding, muscle tensing and progressively relaxing our muscles, TRE, shaking, things like that. Okay, and then just to sort of sum it up, this is what I'm wanting you guys to start to play with. And it is there in your journal, right? The mindset journal, you'll have all this data. If we've been working with it, we'll have that data. But really thinking about when that emotional thing comes up, when the sensation arises in my body, what do I actually need? How did I used to respond? Okay. What can I do instead? What tool can I actually use? Okay. The same way we have our trading plan, I want you guys to understand that you also have an emotional trading plan. Yes? And then my good old book recommendation for the month is the Mindful Trading. I don't know if you guys, this guy, I'll actually share some, where's my slide? I'll actually share some talks on him. His YouTube channel is amazing. Fantastic human being. So understanding, we know that our emotions give us that inner edge. Okay, if we resist it, it's going to persist. And what we welcome is going to transform. So we want to get more comfortable at doing that. And just to sum it all up, we're here to integrate. These emotions are not pesky little nuisances that are trying to interfere with our trading. They're here. We want to utilize them. They're information. They're indicators. That is where our inner edge lies, is being able to sit with them, be compassionate to what's coming up. They're human. You're human. We're normal. They're going to come up. So thank you once again for showing up, for your awareness, your self-compassion, your regulation, and ultimately alignment, being a greater, more aligned human being and trader. Okay, thanks guys. So I'm going to close off there and open to some Q&A. Let me stop share here. Okay, who's still left? I think a few people had to hop off, unfortunately. That's okay. I'll catch the replay. Any questions? I know it was a lot, but any questions on, and again, this is not something I want you to go and add more work to your, already busy agendas, but just as you feel the feeling, you're noting things down all the time from your trades. If you feel the sensation come up, notice what that default response is. What tool works for you? Not all the tools work for everybody. And my job is to try and equip you with the most versatile, robust, resourceful, powerful toolbox, but it's up to you to decide what tool to use when, right? Nobody can enforce that on you. Nobody can make you use the tool. It's up to you to say, you know what? Wow, shaking really helps when I feel pissed off, or going and splashing my face with cold water, right? What works for you? The only way we're going to learn how to do that is through trial and error, through experimenting. Yes? Everybody with me? Okay, I'm going to shush now and rest my voice. Any questions, any thoughts, any reflections? Who wants to go? Any feedback? Yeah, little takeaways, anything that stood out for you? Darren?
Takeaway from my side, each of your sessions become more and more deeply personal for me. It's each session peels another layer away, and it's really, in some cases, scary, but you learn to deal with that. And then in some cases, in more cases than not, very rewarding, because each slide is starting to make more and more meaning, or take more and more meaning. So thank you. It's making me realize more and more that it's all well having sets teachings, but if you cannot regulate yourself, it means nothing. And each day I see that more and more. So thank you.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for it's phenomenal to me, actually, the percentage of people that do this side of it. And honestly, I'll speak to you guys in a couple of years and you'll be like, Tristan, I am such a profitable trader. Well, not even in a few years, a couple of months, but I'm such a successful trader because I'm implementing both. It's rational mind strategy as well as emotional mind, emotional body that allows you to be able to stay far more adaptable, versatile, which is what you need as a trader because we're literally plopped ourselves into uncertainty. So I'm so glad. Thank you so much. Dina, any thoughts or questions from your side?
Well, I've used energy healing for a number of years, but the tools that you have given me just helps reinforce or clarifies some of the things that I could have been missing, and because it's always harder to work on yourself than somebody else, right? And so it's given me a lot of clarity and really improved my trading. Like, I'm just so calm. Like, I'll say, yeah, it sucks, but thank you so much for the lessons I've learned on this because I won't ever forget that. So it's really helped. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. Yay. Evan, thoughts, questions from your side? I can't hear you. Can anyone else hear Evan? We can't hear you. Evan, are you there? Hello? Or maybe a setting on your side? Try unmute yourself. There we go. Try now. Hello. Still nothing. Evan, pop something in the chat there. Yeah, I don't know why we can't hear you. I can't hear or see you. I'm not sure if it's a setting on your side. But please do pop in the chat. Sorry, I dropped. Oh, okay. Oh, perfect. Okay, cool. Okay, guys, well done. Thank you for another great webinar. Thanks for being here and yeah, just playing with it. Please do share in the Mindset Library as maybe just pick Add in Motion, one of the most challenging ones for you, the ones that you struggle with, or one that's easy, just to kind of play with the kind of concept of this. Share it, see what tools are working. How does it feel in your body? What is that arousal state when you feel angry or frustrated or impatient? What does that cocktail feel like in your body, right? What are the sensations? What's going on there for you? So this is state creation, one layer deeper. That's all we've done is we know state creation now. We're just understanding the emotional regulation aspect. And being able to deepen that self-awareness. On Friday, we're going to be looking at our intuition. And then, like I said, next month is all about really just pulling everything together and making that such a powerful, accessible, sustainable toolbox. So thanks so much for being here, guys. Always wonderful to see your lovely faces. And I'll see you soon.
Thank you very much. Take care,
Later.
guys.
Have a
Thanks.